like a matrix situation, or do you want me to analyze each one first and then come back and do the matrix analysis at the end?
What you do is, so you're coding the data, and then you're analyzing, you're identifying themes, things that fit together, so larger aspects. And about these themes you have to talk about.
I should write, I start with each theme first.
Because the themes are collections of codes, essentially. So you will have maybe one theme, but then you have several codes underneath a theme. Right? You need to look up, Rolly, what the theme is. Have a look at the Richards book, and have a look at the coding book I suggested, because you need to understand the difference between code and theme. And Richard, she also talks about how to write this up. You need to read this.
Okay.
Right? Yes, that's what you need, and then you will gain some ground. I mean, that's what I use that's what we use when you do when we did this. So
I was thinking, do I describe, analyze at the same time? Okay, let me give you an example. From the chapter presentation, my chapter 4 presentation. So, should I, there was a table I did initially when I was just doing a draft where you said you just wanted to see a sample draft, where I said customer proximity, specialization and competition, what makes them stand out, which you said you don't want questions, I should change them to code, competition and pricing. If table 1 of my presentation of data.
Table 1 of your presentation. And which one was that?
In the first one I said which you didn't like, where it had the green.
Hang on. The data. What is it in September? Huh?
Yes, I sent it in September. Chapter 4, presentation of results.
Hang on, just sample data, template analysis. No.
It was where you said it was too descriptive. Where you said that was you made some.
Hang on. I'm looking for the file. Just give me a second, please.
Okay, let me tell you what it is. I think I can find the file on my computer. It's called DBA Chapter 4, Presentation of Results, TM Comments.
I've got it here. Yeah. Yes, okay, I've got it. Found it.
So, I'm not, what I was saying that because I'm starting all over again, what I did was that I put the introduction. Okay, I haven't sent that to you. I did the introduction, and I added some things to the introduction, and then I'm adding the table, which I'm not going to put anything about the research question. Then I put a final template coding analysis scheme. Should I still put a table showing my coding analysis scheme? I kind of wanted to do that so they would know. You would know.
Sorry, are you talking about the final table template coding analysis scheme?
Yes.
Yes, you would want that in there.
Okay, then
because that's like the overview.
Okay.
Of what you've done, but that big fix. I mean, you'll probably redo this based.
No, I know that. I know it's bad now that I know that I didn't do that properly. And then I'm going to remove all the P1, P2, whatever the data. But what I was asking, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm really sorry. I'm actually much better. I'm sorry about that. What I was trying to say was that when I initially described the theme of cost, like maybe on page 4, number 1, where I talked about customer proximity, obtaining customers.
Yes.
So, should I leave the explanation in it? Do I need to add references to that? Or, do I just, like I said, the theme of
Okay, so let me just read this. So the theme of customer proximity encapsulates the steps towards obtaining customers. Specifically, what makes companies stand out when money is put into obtaining. So, the way to look at this, essentially what you're doing is, for every theme, you are creating an argument. It's like a small argument, right? Oh, hang on. Right? So.
Sorry.
No worries.
Sorry, my antibiotics is due.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
So for every theme, you're creating an argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want to end up with an opinion, right? Because an opinion is an unwarranted conclusion. But you want an argument. So an argument is made up of a conclusion and what's referred to as warranting, right?
Now, could you go through that again for me, please?
Okay, so you're developing an argument, right? You don't want an opinion, right? So, for example, you've probably seen the news, right, about Brexit, and then everybody is giving their opinions without really substantiating, why should we leave the European Union? And some people do that. Some people provide opinions, and then they substantiate it a little bit. But in many cases, you just see these ideological debates about it, right? And so these are opinions. Now, for you, because you're writing a thesis, you're writing an academic piece of work, what you want to do is you want to create an argument. Now, an argument is made up of a conclusion and what is referred to as warranting, right? However, the conclusion is only half of your argument, right? The question is, when you read a conclusion, right? Meaning, so a conclusion in your case would be, well, the theme customer proximity is important in relation to SMEs, right, in Nigeria, and it encapsulates the following items. That's your conclusion. You're making a claim. You're saying this is important. Okay? Right? So that's the first half of the argument. Now the reader, if I read this and then I will say, why should I believe this? Is it because Rowley said this, or is it because Rowley actually said this and then she provided evidence for why this is actually the truth? Right?
Okay.
So,
okay.
So the thing you need to ask yourself, whenever you make a conclusion, why should the reader believe what I'm saying? That's the first thing you need to ask yourself. And then the other half, so that's the first half of the argument, that you're stating the conclusion. The other half of the argument is the warranting. And the warranting is the reason for accepting the conclusion. And that includes evidence for the conclusion. Right? So you're telling us, well, why should the reader believe what I have to say here? And then you're saying, well, so you provide an explanation, and then you're providing evidence. And the evidence is, in this case, has to be a quote. A quote from the interviews. Right? And so the way you can write this is, going back to this example, the theme of, or you don't even have to say the theme, customer proximity was an important aspect or maybe factor, depending on what language you want to use there, that was identified. It contains the following sub-elements, right? And then you talk about what you've written here. And then you explain why this is important. So first of all, you say, well, customer proximity is important because of such and such and such and such. And then you pick up on all the other items you mentioned under customer proximity. So it encapsulates